Hi there. So I wanted to share something really interesting about frequency. And for those that don't know me, my name is Brian T. Collins. I'm a composer, innovator, and empowerment coach, and I help people awaken to higher states of realization. And I do that using sound harmonics. I recognized very early in my own life, because I was struck by a car when I was 5. It made me very sensitive to sound and frequency. And as a professional musician, I used to suffer terrible headaches tuned at the normal standard music entertainment tuning. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with entertainment tuning. I'm not against it. Not against you know that per se, but I realized to help myself, I noticed that very early on in life, when I learned tuning, it actually solved the problem of the migraines I used to have. So I kind of went on an innovative research mission through my whole life to really just study frequency and really understand it in terms of how it can help us gain awakened states of realization, and for meditation and other practical things as well. So I had an interesting email the other day from Jen Wilson from Transformational Sound Therapy Summit, and she's re-interviewing some of the guest speakers. I was one of the guest speakers on there a few years ago, and she was asking about getting an instrument made in 432, and she was asking me what specific frequencies, because there's a lot of disinformation online from, unfortunately, look, it's just the way, it's a fact of life that there's dishonest and deceitful people out there. And sometimes if you're sharing truth of fact-based information, and that upsets the apple cart of somebody's agenda, they sometimes disparage and throw and project wrongful information back out in the public. So there's a lot of that going on in the public. There's a lot of mud flinging. So like Jen is kind of wanting to know which specific frequencies in 432 is good, and I just have to say, you can build and engineer music scales in many different ways, but specifically a lot of this confusion online of this pitch battle back and forth between this frequency versus that frequency, what it does is it gets people into a polar state of distraction. So that's what it's about. It keeps you constantly spinning your wheels in distraction. So really, actually, the whole concept of 432, if you take it away from all this new age stuff, which I don't subscribe to. I've studied this for many, many years. And so I can honestly say that most people are missing a very simple fact about sound and how it impacts the ear. So one of these problems is creating this polar battle of this frequency versus that frequency. What frequency is better? Well, first off, you're an individual. You have different bone density, mineral ratio content, all kinds of things like that. So everyone is going to hear and experience sound differently, because it's not just that the sound is actually coming and moving through the air. The sound is being processed, internalized within you and within your brain. So how it impacts the ear, there's metrics and physics of that. So specifically, as higher frequency, it impacts the ear different than lower frequency. So trying to make a direct quantitative means is a distraction. So when it comes to music and it comes to sound and how it impacts the brain and nervous system, we're looking at actually more really the qualitative, emotional context of what it can be. And sound is, like I said, it's made within the brain. Is the waves that you're experiencing. So it's affecting different areas of the brain differently. So you can't compare this frequency to that frequency, like 432 directly to 440, or 444, 528, 427, 451. You can't do it. It's like trying to constantly compare an apple to an orange, to a pear, to a lemon, to a banana, to a pineapple, right? All of those are, essentially vegetation right? So it's like sound frequencies, music, right? You can be classified under that. But then we start getting into the nuances of things. You're getting into qualitative, and that becomes an endless subjective experience. And I've always mentioned that, and keeping it straight, keeping it real, keeping it factual, because truth is context based. Okay, so let's talk about something very simple, and it's something that was released in 2006. It was an actual study, and so that's a study that was done on the ear. And if we go to physics.org, you can look this up, right? This article was released on March 3rd, 2006, and it shows why the inner ear is, snail-shaped. So, you can just kind of, I'm not going to read the whole article. You can go, I'm just going to take little snippets here for the sake of this video. Is the spiral shape of the cochlea enhances its ability to detect low frequency sounds. Okay, so the calculations show that the inner ear organ is shaped like a snail shell in order to boost sensitivity to low frequencies. Right, so this is interesting because the spiral shape effectively it boosts the strength of vibrations caused by sound, especially for low pitches. So when sound waves hit the eardrum, tiny bones in the ear transmit the vibrations to the fluid of the cochlea, where they travel along a tube that winds into a spiral. It's like a snail shell. Right? This is this whole spiral thing I've been talking for years. It's not just in the shape of the ear, but natural tone wants to spiral, and when we actually build a music scale out of notes, is we follow a thing called a logarithmic spiral. Right, now a natural spiral, it doesn't join, so what we do is we have to bend that spiral into a circle, right, of 12 equal semitones, so that when we start at one place and then we come out to the other side, we've got a thing called the octave, so it matches, so you can play up the octave. I'll demonstrate because I got a keyboard in front of me. Right, so specifically this is important because there's a lot of this pitch battle stuff going and confusing terms, so I'm going to deal with this in dealing with Jen's question on what frequencies should she make a 4-3-2 scale out of. What's interesting is because the spiral makes mathematics very complex, the researchers used an idealized model for other aspects of the cochlea. Right, they found that the curvature had little impact on the average vibrational energy traveling on the tube. However, as the wave progresses, this energy increasingly accumulates towards the outside edge of the spiral rather than remaining evenly spread across it. So low frequencies travel the furthest into the spiral, so the effect is strongest for them. Since the cells that detect vibrations respond especially well to pressure differences between the inner and outer edge. Here's the drop the mic. Ready? This concentration of sound intensity translates into higher sensitivity. Now this is something I've been promoting largely word of mouth privately, because there's so much noise online and people shouting back and forth and different views of opinion and made up ideologies and beliefs. But let's go. Truth is context based. So basically, sound, the reason why you're hearing low frequency and why it's very effective. This is why I use it for my empowerment coaching with my method, my harmonic integration method, is that the low frequency, obviously it's warmer, and it's warmer because actually it's going farther up the ear canal. Higher pitch is actually impacting the basilar membrane quite differently, and it comes in at a little bit of an angle. I've actually seen the research, and on another video I may actually go into detail on that. So basically, is with high frequency, it's coming into the ear. If I was going to use the metaphor here, strictly a metaphor, it's coming into the ear shallow. So as a result, it's just like if you're listening, and then all of a sudden you listen through a tube, things sound thin, they sound bright, they sound high. It's because you're not getting the same type of impact on the ear. So that as a result of that, higher pitch is not creating the same type of sensitivity than low, because the low frequency is traveling farther up into the ear canal. And so just like it says here, the concentration of sound intensity translates into higher sensitivity. So this pressure difference is quite interesting, because researchers traditionally, now this is why I don't argue into numbers and stuff, and 10 years ago I realized there's a lot that science has to catch up on. It's basically their perceptions on how to actually measure things. So when this came out, they realized that traditionally, prior to the 2006 study, they were actually using straight channels, right? You can read it right here, to mimic or model the cochlea, because a lot of, let's face it, a lot of research is linear based, straight lines, right? It's not abstract thinking, right? Right. I'm left-handed. I'm very creative from being left-handed and also other things, but when you're using your right brain, you're more intuitive, you're more feeling centered, you're more experience, that kind of thing. So therefore you're able to use your creative imagination, and so what happens is up until then there was no reason to make that curved in the model, but in light of the results after they had made the model as a curvature, it says it right here, people can't ignore that the spiral is doing something at low frequency. The gross geometry of the entire structure contributing to amplifying these low frequencies. Right, so this is you can read more about this, and you can go and you can actually click on the actual study. I bought the study and downloaded it. Here it is here. It's quite interesting. But specifically, one of the reasons why I wanted to mention this is because so basically is low frequency creates a higher efficacy when it comes to sound healing. Now, there's all different applications for sound, right? So like I said, is about high frequency. Well, a lot of orchestras and a lot of entertainment, and a lot of claims online that they say that is superior, but it's different, right? Again, back to the apples, oranges, pears. You can't say an apple is superior to an orange, and likewise, and they do different things in the ear, and different things are impacted in different areas of the brain. So they all have a place for something somewhere. So high frequency has a place for awakened or alert states, right? In a reactive alert. There's times where you have to get out of danger, right? There's times where you have to suddenly drop what you're doing because you hear a high-pitched sound, right? It jolts you into a reaction. Ultimately, that's why a baby's voice is so high, shrill, pitched, because it freezes you from what you're doing and then makes you pay attention. So the high, and also this is why alarm bells and all that kind of stuff is really high pitched, is to get your attention. Now low pitch has an interesting thing, and this is why I use it for my empowerment coaching, because it helps you get into a sensitivity, a really high sensitivity. Now again, it's this whole thing I've been saying for years about the new age thing. I don't subscribe to this raising your vibration all the time, because really is when a yogi, a true mystic and a true shaman, a true yogi, when they're sitting there in such a state, what do? They actually breathe deeply, and so what they do is they lower their meditative functions. So when they meditate, their actual physical functions, so the heartbeat and stuff. As that happens, they attain what they say is enlightenment, but I say it differently. It's they're attaining awakened states of realization. It's you're able to actually get into that creative field as you lower a vibration, because we're talking about just not a thing of physics, how is a violin is very tiny because it's high pitched, right? Because in energy, the higher the pitch is, you're burning off all the energy. There's no saying the light that burns twice as bright burns half as long. And so the amplitude of the oscillation of the low wave is longer. And this is why in the atmosphere, with concussions of mechanical sound waves, what travels the farthest is actually the bass. It's the bass that you hear from miles away in the concert, not really the guitar or violin. It dies out because the energy is, anyway. That's a whole other topic. But specifically, these pitch battles back and forth of focusing on decimal places of a number is also a red herring, and it's a distraction, because as I've mentioned for quite some time, the second is arbitrary. It's like a slinky or like an accordion. It's an arbitrary man-made thing. The metric stays the same, but as you change the second, it even though the number stays the same, it changes the value of the distance back and forth. So we have issues of calibration throughout history when they change the length of the second, even though the number stays the same. So then that means that if you've been doing scientific experiments under a different calibration, even though you've written all the numbers, it then therefore, once you recalibrate, it doesn't line up to the phenomenon that you previously measured. So it's something I've been sharing word of mouth for quite some time. So specifically, when it comes down to, very simply, is 432, there's a difference with that 440. So right here is I basically have this a software that I can play. Right, and then so right now I'm in 440. So here's the Hertzian values. Now this software, Piano Tech, it's awesome. You can build scales, like, and it comes with a whole bunch of ones that are already done. So it's all laid out for you, so that you don't have to worry. What's interesting was I did reach out to the manufacturer, Piano Tech, when I first got it, because I wanted to know about the decimal place, because you can do up to 2 or 3 decimal places, but it actually doesn't display on the front. And they confirmed to me that yes, it will accurately do the 2 decimal places, but what it does is, for display purposes only, it either rounds up or rounds down. So this is for the cerebral naysayers who would see this decimal place and say, Collins, you're not, it's like 3.22 or whatever. Right. Forget that, because I've already reached out to the manufacturer, and they have confirmed that the first digit after the decimal place either rounds up or rounds down, which is cool for me, because I can display also some of my intellectual property without the exact numbers being displayed. Right. So here we have basically what we've got here is 440. You can see it right here. Right. So if I go to 432, I just suggest for Jen Wilson, whose question, she wanted to get a gift for Christmas, and what frequencies that she should make a scale. Stick with equal temperament. There's a lot of people screaming that you can't play equal temperament in 432. Well, there it is right there. So now I don't suggest direct pitch comparisons, because again, it's apples, oranges, pears. What you're actually doing is it's impacting a different part of your brain. Right? So that's going to sound obviously a little bit more brighter. And I'm just using equal temperament. And I'm going to switch it to 432, equal temperament. Slightly lower. different. It's a little bit warmer. Everyone is completely different. You're hearing that completely different than how I hear it. To some people with different bone density, different mineral content, it might sound dull, because the sensation of tone, I've been quoted for years as saying this, the sensation of tone is an individual experience. And that is absolutely true. So end this pitch war back and forth between all these frequency comparisons. You're wasting your time. You're wasting your time, intellect. Not only that, is for the sake of trying to be right, you're not coming to the table, and therefore with actual contextual truth. Now, it's not my job to sit there all day and shout from the rooftops, point out mistakes and stuff, right? So I'm off doing stuff and playing music. I play music 440, but when it comes to empowerment coaching and stuff, is I like to actually lower the frequency, because the lower frequency, what that does is it helps you to get into a lucid state quicker, and I have a special instrument for that, and that's what I do with empowerment coaching. Is I help people to realize these higher awakened states, and when you're in that kind of a lucid state, is what happens is you're able to let go of all kinds of stuff. It could be maybe you're stressed out, you're not sleeping, maybe you've had some stuff that you can't place your finger on, and you can't figure it out because it may be buried in your subconscious. And so I found that low frequency is an excellent way to be able to face some of your inner things that you've been avoiding. And I also help people with coaching through that as well, because what that does is we all must balance between the forces within ourselves. We create imbalance if we're trying to only be good, or run away from the shadow. I want to state this because I do help people with shadow clearing. The reason why I came up and got this instrument built for myself was because of me having to go through my own things in life. And so it was a really effective way of me being able to help myself. And then I started helping animals. Now animals, they don't have an invested income and things. They don't have an ego. They're not out making money or whatever. So I found when I was working with animals to volunteer, was they would move through stress and emotional trauma very quickly. And so the natural state of the body is to want to shake. And so I've got videos out there on one of my other websites, innerbalance.one, which is a coaching website. And you can see that. You can see me working with animals, and the natural condition of biological life is to shake it out of you, shake it out of the cells, and shake it out of the body's tissues. You see, we get so cerebral and so caught up in other people's stories and caught up in belief systems and their own stories that we hold things, we freeze, right? And especially now with what's going on in the world, massive changes, and they're getting more and more severe, and the future is unknown to a lot of people. And there's some people who know what's coming, but there's other people who don't, and they're having a hard time. I mean, there's more depression and abuse and all kinds of things. It's not about that in this video, but it's like, if anything, my experience and my knowledge and my methods, I'm able to help, because what I can do is I've got a special type of technology that I can stream a high definition sound stream to you in real time. And you put on your headphones, you sit there and you listen to it, and because we're actually on a call together, that actually creates that creates a kind of a safe container, but also allows you that you're participating in it also. And then you can get into an awakened state of higher realization, and that allows you to bridge the gap between your conscious mind and your subconscious mind to empty out your cup, because you can't keep pouring things into yourself. You've got to empty out whatever came before. So that's important. So when it comes to building scales in 432, I mean, yeah, there's all kinds of exotic scales out there. But I just suggest using the equal temperament scale for that, because again, it does work. Obviously it does work. You're hearing it right here. And then what happens is other instruments that are made in 432, you'll be able to play because they're normally in equal temperament anyway. Now, for the purists out there, yeah, there are ones out there, for an example, that I've been able to do is this is a quasi temperament one that's built off of a revised Reynolds 2 tuning that and it's not about trying to overtake or overthrow the entertainment system tuning. That's not what I'm about. I've never been about that. I seek balance between all things. I realize that, you know, certain notes, what that does is it has an impact in the ear quite differently than normal equal temperament tuning, which is why I use them. It's not about burning up, you know, playing jazz and which you can still do to some degree, but as you go into more natural ways of how you build scales based off of just intonation, Pythagorean intonation stuff, you can't play in all 12 keys, because again, is the modern way of playing 12 notes on piano and locking into an octave, right? It had to make it so that the tritone is equal. Right, it's the building block of the logarithmic spiral. Is you've got to make the tones as what was it, 12 square root of 2, right? So you're looking at pi radian 2, something like that, right? It's it's a big whole thing between prime numbers and irrational numbers. We can get into that later. I don't purport to know all of this stuff, because also another philosophy I have is you don't need to know the inner workings of a car engine just to turn on the car and drive down to the store and get a loaf of bread. Likewise, you don't need to know all this harmonic ratio, overtone, undertone series and all this stuff just to enjoy music and just to be able to play music, right? So I hope this answers some questions around 432, clears up some things around 432. If you have any questions, reach out. Let's have a conversation. I'm easy to get a hold of through the internet. You can reach me on my website. If you're interested also in the work that I do with empowerment coaching, it's very effective for helping people with stress. So if you're stressed, or if you know somebody that's stressed, and just reach out. Now again, I use coaching. Coaching is not therapy. I don't work with anybody with mental illness or medical problems. I don't treat, diagnose. It's not a treatment. It's not a therapy. I don't do sound therapy. I use my instrument in a form of coaching to help awaken and attain, higher states of realization, so that you can go, now I realize that. That's what, because it's up to you to do the work yourself. I'm not here to heal anybody. I'm not here to do the work for you. And I'm not here to run around putting out fires or putting band-aids on what needs stitching, okay? So I just wanted to say that to qualify. So if we're a good fit and you feel I may be able to help, reach out and let me know on how I may be able to help, and we'll take it from there. All right, so I hope you've enjoyed this. I'm going to make more videos. This is really cool. I got everything all set up now for doing interactive sound stuff, and let's have some fun. And keep healthy, keep safe, and have an awesome Christmas. And try to make the best of things. Let's anchor in a better future today. All right, I'm Brian T. Collins, and I hope to talk to you soon.